Hello and welcome back to today's episode of the Breadwinner Podcast. We are in the moving into the second week of October. And so we're going to talk about quarter four. The last 3 months of the year, the last quarter, tend to be the busiest for any retail industry, and that includes our bakery industry. And so there are so many opportunities, so many chances to say yes to things. We can very quickly find ourselves completely burnt out. So that is the complete opposite of what we're going for here at the Breadwinner Podcast. And we're going to talk a little bit about quarter four mindset, kind of some prep ahead tactics that you can start thinking about already, and how to begin to set yourself up for a very successful last quarter without burning yourself out and making sure that you still have time for the moments that really matter the most. Really, the difference between a frantic quarter four and one that feels life-giving, you'll have those tired moments, of course, but fulfilling, meets your goals, and you're not scrambling and trying to weigh out whether to say yes to family time or yes to a market opportunity. The difference comes down to your mindset and your preparation. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about both. We're going to talk about a few mindsets, a few key mindset shifts that can help you say yes to the right opportunities and no to the ones that pull you off track, maybe will just be more wasted time than anything. And then just a handful of practical tips that you can start using and thinking about right here in early October to begin to prepare for the busy months that are coming. I've shared before, my very first holiday season was shortly after I started my business. I started selling in early September, and so it wasn't long before there were so many fall and winter markets and so many opportunities to say yes. And for Thanksgiving, I gave this huge menu. I offered so many different things, fun different sweetbreads, dinner rolls, all the things, and I burnt myself out so badly that I had no energy left to give to Christmas time and lost out on a lot of potential opportunities there. And so you can learn from my mistakes and skip that part of the learning curve and be better equipped to use your energy in a way that is spread out more evenly throughout the entire season. So if you're like me and you're juggling prep day, if you're listening on the audio platforms and not watching on YouTube, I am apron on, sitting in front of my prep table. I have cooling trays of crackers behind me. Got some sweet starter behind me for some brioche dough that I'll mix up in a little bit. And I just popped some amaranth grain for my granola. So if you are also prepping right alongside me, I am excited to take a little breather during prep day, where maybe you've got your hands in your dough and me in your ears, and talk about quarter four. So with that perspective, coming from a quarter four that burnt me out, last year I went into it with a totally different mindset, and I really kept my holiday special menus a lot more streamlined, a lot more manageable, and I was able to show up in a way that felt so much more balanced. I was able to say yes to both Thanksgiving and Christmas opportunities, as well as like teacher appreciation gifts and things like that. And I showed up at my regular markets. And it left me thinking, how can I create something for my community, my podcast listeners, that helps them be well prepared for those November and December months without adding something extra that you have to do? And so I'll tell you a little bit more about it at the end of the episode, but I do have the Holiday Accelerator coming at the end of October. This is an online virtual event. So if you are part of the Breadwinner Summit back in April, this is similar but different. It's an event where we are going to come together live in a community. I am going to teach you and walk you through some workshops and some really helpful structure and systems to help you kind of pause, reset after October, take a breather, check in on your goals, make some financial goals, and create a plan to hit those. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm telling you more than I had planned in my outline so far, but all that to say, that's coming as well as this episode to really help you navigate quarter four in a way that brings you energy instead of depletes it. Okay, we will chat more about the accelerator here at the end. I'm going to get back on track with my outline here. So let's start with mindset. Your calendar, your energy, and profitability all flow from the decisions that you make, especially the decisions that you make ahead of time. Speaking as someone who tends to fly by the seat of my pants, if I give myself enough runway to really make a strategic decision, it tends to go a little better. Now, those spur of the moment decisions can be great too, and I do plenty of those as well. But planning ahead is ultimately really going to set you up for success. So, mindset shift number one is say yes like a CEO. Fine print, not like a people pleaser. For every fall and winter season, there are going to be hundreds of opportunities. There are markets, there are school events, there are pop ups, there are collaborations with local businesses, there are charity events. It is so easy to say yes to everything. You might fear that you're missing out on something, or maybe a good friend invited you to something and you don't want to disappoint them. The truth is, you can't do it all and do it well. So, your role as the CEO of your bakery, I'm speaking to every single one of you, even if you have just begun your business, you are still the CEO. Your role is to say yes to the events that align with your revenue goals, your values, and your energy level. You can ask yourself, does this event help me reach my sales target? Does it connect me to my ideal customers? Sometimes there are events that could be wonderful, but they're an hour from you and they're catering to an entirely different market. They're not reaching the people who are actually going to buy from you. And those can be a pretty easy no. You can ask, does it fit in my schedule without wrecking my health or family time? Do I have to squeeze it in a way that just stretches everyone too thin? Or do I have to say no to some important family time to fit this event in? That can also be a filter to help you know which ones to say no to. It's okay to decline graciously, even if it is an event that is put on by someone who you know and respect, maybe a friend or family member. They will respect those boundaries. Ultimately, they may be a little bummed at first, but they're going to recognize that you are making choices to say yes so that you can do your yeses really, really well. Mindset shift number two is think profit per hour, not just total sales. It's really easy to start quantifying things in terms of like how many loaves of bread you're going to sell. I could sell 30 loaves of bread. That's $300. If you're sitting at an event for 8 hours and losing all of that time with your family, if it's a really long daytime event, especially if you're living somewhere like we do in South Texas, where fall is not cool. It's 90 degrees, and an 8-hour outdoor event is really draining. So I've learned this lesson the hard way by saying yes to those 8-hour outdoor events, and also by offering some of those really fun holiday items like the twisted star breads or the pumpkin-shaped loaves or really intricate cookies maybe. They can easily eat up hours of time for not a lot of profit. So prioritize, lean into the items with a strong margin and things that can be made in batches, things like frozen cookie dough balls that you can just bake from frozen. The scones can be prepped and the dough frozen and baked from frozen. Granola has a long shelf life when it's fully dry and stored in an airtight container. You can prepare dinner rolls about a week ahead of time and pop them in the freezer and bake them from frozen. So think about things that you can prep ahead, things with a strong profit margin, and then those items that are really fun, like those pumpkin-shaped loaves, maybe you raise the price on those significantly so that it is more worth your time. You may sell a lot fewer of them, but you're not going to spend 5 hours tying strings on a pumpkin loaf when you could make much more bread in the same amount of time. And ultimately, your profit per hour is a lot higher. Again, I learned this lesson the hard way. My very first year, I did so many of those pumpkin-shaped loaves. And I even made them mini versions very small, and I just was so burnt out. So the following year, last year, I had people requesting them, but what I did was I made them as my regular size loaf, my 900-gram loaf, and I raised the price. So I was offering more bread for a higher price and same amount of effort. So rather than tying the string on these tiny loaves that had to be priced lower, I could offer a regular size larger loaf at a higher price. And I sold a lot fewer of them and I didn't resent them. This year, I honestly don't think I'm going to offer them at all. I haven't had any requests for them. And there are plenty of other bakers nearby who offer them. So what I can do if I do get a request is just point people toward another baker who does offer them. Your third mindset shift is to protect the white space in your calendar. Burnout often happens not because we worked, but because we never stopped. So before you fill in every square on your calendar, make sure you're blocking off and protecting those non-negotiables. That could be a rest day, family commitments, maybe set aside one sacred slow morning a week. Things, whatever it feels restorative to you, make sure you're prioritizing those and not sacrificing those. Your fourth mindset shift. This is what I failed to do my first year. So what I encourage you to do is to picture the week after Christmas. This is usually a very quiet, slow week. You can generally count on few, if any, orders if you do have your menu open. So think about how you want to feel. Do you want to feel drained and over it? Or do you want to feel proud and tired but energized, ready to jump back in? So work backward from that picture. Maybe pull out a piece of paper right now and sit down and think about how do you want to feel during that week after Christmas. That perspective will help you set boundaries and it will help you protect that feeling so that you can finish the season strong instead of limping to the finish line. If you know ahead of time that you want to feel energized, positive, and not burnt out, that's going to make it easier to say no to some of those opportunities and to prioritize the ones that make the most sense. So these mindset shifts can sound very simple, but they're really powerful and they give you permission to run your business on purpose and say no to things that might feel like a lost opportunity rather than just letting the season run you. Okay, with those mindset shifts, that foundation laid, let's talk about some practical quarter four prep that you can start thinking about right now in early October. There is actually some early ingredient prep that you can start doing and start stocking your freezer. I browned a huge batch of butter this week and I portioned it out into deli containers that will just live in the freezer and they will be in there for when I'm ready so I don't have to brown the butter each week. You can also prep ahead things like shredding cheese. Cheese can be frozen. I use it frozen for my jalapeno cheddar loaves and you just have to take into account that you're adding a cold ingredient and it's going to extend the proofing time, but it freezes really nicely and it thaws perfectly normally. You can also start pre-measuring your dry ingredients. You can portion out the dry ingredients for bread or for cookies or muffins and just make kind of ready to go baking kits. You might need to get some extra bins or get creative. I've done this before and just used a bunch of Ziplocs. I don't do that now because I find that that doesn't hold enough ingredients. And so my preference is just to kind of prep my dry ingredients for things like my breads the week of, but I do front load that generally. So I often do that like Monday or Tuesday, even if I'm not mixing my dough until Wednesday or Thursday. Having the dry ingredients mixed for the week ahead of time makes dough day so much smoother. So think about what are some of the inclusions that you might be using. Do you need to candy some nuts? I often use candied walnuts in some of my recipes. Can you do that ahead of time? They have a long shelf life. Do you need to chop some ingredients? Can you chop ingredients ahead of time and keep them in the freezer until you're ready to use them? The more that you can do that, the better your days are just going to flow when it comes to those actual dough days. Another thing to do is to take stock of your packaging. Look at your boxes, your bags, your ribbons, your labels. During Christmas time, I add some holiday labels and some fun touches. And more than once, I have been on Amazon looking for the overnight Christmas holiday labels. That's something that I can prep ahead this year and order ahead of time so that I'm not scrambling and trying to find the next day delivery option. Look at your packaging, see what you can order ahead and have extras of, again, so that when the holiday rush hits, things sell out, you are prepared and you're not scrambling at the last minute. Another thing you can do to start prepping ahead is thinking about your menu. Maybe you have already started thinking and recipe testing. If you're like me and you kind of fly by the seat of your pants, maybe you haven't. My recipe testing method often is baking something and bringing a small handful to the market and then asking my regulars for feedback. As long as I'm relatively confident that it's a good product, I'll do that. If you're putting your hand up and saying, "Oh, me too," I'm glad that's not just me not planning ahead and recipe testing. You're not alone. You're in good company. Anyway, you can start planning your menu ahead. And one really smart thing to do is to think about choosing one or two signature holiday items that you repeat year after year and people start to know you for and come back for. Some people love to do like the cinnamon star-shaped bread or maybe a unique cookie box. The thing that I've done the last 2 years that people come back for is a little variety box of mini scones, and I package it really cute, and people buy it for gifts and for teacher gifts. And that's become kind of my signature holiday offering, in addition to dinner rolls and a couple of other standard things. The other thing with your menu is to start thinking about cutoff dates for pre-orders and make sure you stick to these. Talked about this so many times, but this is really, really important. Kind of look at the calendar and reverse engineer and decide when you want people to pick up. And then from there, determine when you're going to close your orders. So for Thanksgiving, if they're picking up on the day before on Wednesday, or maybe even on Tuesday, you need to make sure that you have plenty of time to make sure you order the ingredients and have everything ready and have plenty of time to prepare. And so close your orders accordingly. For holidays like Christmas, it's okay to give people instructions on how to freeze your products and how to thaw them. So I've done this before with my fully baked cinnamon rolls. I give people instructions on best practices for popping it in the freezer and then thawing it so that they're warm and ready to eat for whenever they want to enjoy them. And then another thing you can do to prep ahead is to block out your time for batch tasks, whether this is preparing social media posts or your admin catch up, preparing your menus, handling emails, responding to messages. Chunking these into batches so that you know kind of when you're going to be responding to all of your emails or when you're going to be creating social content or putting together your menu helps you so that that's not on the mental treadmill. You're not thinking constantly, oh, I need to post the menu. I need to plan the menu. You know, Tuesday afternoon while the kids nap is when I'm going to be planning the menu. And then you can put that down and not have it on your long list of mental to-dos. Try to think more and more in terms of batching. Even preparing labels ahead of time. You can do a ton of labels. If you have the same labels for like your original sourdough, you can pre-print 100 of them and slap them on the bag, and you know that they'll be ready for when you do need them. This is just a small list to kind of get you thinking about how to plan ahead and use slower time strategically to prepare for the busier times. So another thing to keep in mind is we as bakers often start really strong in early October. Maybe we're doing an autumn event, a pumpkin patch, or a fall market. And then by the end of the month, we're kind of on autopilot and just going straight from October, rolling into November, which rolls into December. And then by the end of the year, we're spent. So I like to build in a reset at the end of October. I love quarterly resets, but at the end of October is a great time to kind of pause, take a breather, make sure that October was tracking with your goals, with your values, and then get really clear on November and December. Get really clear on financial goals, get really clear on your event plans, what's going to be on your Thanksgiving and Christmas menus, and just check in so that you aren't just on autopilot rolling straight from October into November into December. So a reset is just a check, a pause to ask, how are your sales compared to your projections in October? Which products are selling the fastest? What are people asking for? How's your energy? Do you need to cut something out? Do you need to adjust pickup days? This is just a great chance to make small course corrections at the end of October and save you from major burnout in December. And so let's now talk about the holiday accelerator that I began to talk about at the beginning of the episode. This is that October reset. This is that moment. It's October 28th and 29th. It's a live virtual event from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time. If you can't make it live, everything will be recorded, but it's a moment to sit down and work on your business instead of in it, just for a few hours a day for 2 purposeful days. So recharge, reset, connect with other bakers, get a practical plan in place for November and December. There are 2 different tickets. It's free to attend. You can get a free ticket that gives you access to all of the live sessions. And the live sessions are super helpful, super practical. So I'm going to guide you through a reset workshop where we're going to make sure that we're focused on what matters in your bakery the most, a financial goals workshop to set realistic, profitable goals for the remainder of the year, and then a strategy and planning workshop. So with that lens, knowing our financial goal and kind of resetting and checking in with our values and what our business is here for, we make that plan for November and December and make sure that everything is on track and set up for the end of the year. And then there's also a live question and answer session with me. In the Breadwinner Summit back in April, this was one of the highlights. This is a chance for you to get in front of me. One of the really rare opportunities to do this and ask me questions. Ask me about Q4. Ask me about my systems or strategies. And then your free ticket also includes access to the community. So you'll have access for a full week to the recordings and the community with the free ticket. And then there's an upgraded paid ticket if you want to get more out of the event. And your paid ticket includes lifetime access to all of those session recordings so you can revisit them, and a holiday game plan workbook with best practices for vendor events, how to find the best ones, how to make the most of them, some tips and tricks for planning ahead, prepping ahead, some packaging ideas for holiday packaging, and some ideas for finding local collaborations, how to work with other local people to create a mutually beneficial collaboration around the holiday season. So this will be super valuable. And then in addition to that, there will be a second live Q&A that's a smaller group just for the upgraded tickets, a little more intimate, and one more chance to get right in front of me and ask me questions live for your burning questions. You'll also get 3 of my base recipes that I've developed myself. This is probably the thing I'm most excited about. I'll be sharing 3 recipes that I've developed. My muffin recipe, coffee cake muffins, is one of my top sellers, but it functions as a base recipe, so you can turn it into other holiday flavors. I'm also sharing my self-developed scone recipe, which again is a base recipe that you can change for holiday flavors. And then my granola, again, a self-developed recipe that you can tweak and adjust if you want to. These are recipes that are top sellers for me. And I'm also going to include a guide for how to tweak and adjust them and kind of put your own spin on them for holiday and seasonal flavors too. That alone is worth the cost of the upgraded ticket. And so I think that's the way to go. But as I mentioned, there's the free ticket too, which is going to be so valuable, and you'll get to be part of that community and rubbing shoulders with other bakers for the week. You can ask questions there. It's going to be a really, really helpful and beneficial 2 days to set you up for a strong end of the year to roll into 2026 feeling ready and excited and recharged. The goal with the Holiday Accelerator is to press pause so we can accelerate. It's not to add something else to your plate, but it's about giving you tools and clarity so that you can do less with more impact. If you feel ready to step into the holiday season with a plan and to actually enjoy it instead of feeling like you're being pulled in 100 directions, overwhelmed, I want you to join me at the Holiday Accelerator. But also, I hope that this episode gave you something to think about and gave you some encouragement and kind of a mindset that feels ready to tackle this season with clarity. Make sure you grab your ticket to the Holiday Accelerator. There's a link down below. On the first screen, you'll grab your free ticket, and on the second screen, you'll have the opportunity to upgrade to your paid ticket. All right, as I wrap up, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope you feel inspired to start quarter four with intention and some simple stress saving tips. And as always, I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering you on. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do that. If you're on YouTube, click to get the notifications when a new episode releases. And if you're on a podcast app, hit subscribe so you don't miss a new episode. They come out every Thursday and they're always packed with really practical tips for growing your thriving sourdough microbakery. I will be back very soon with a new episode, but until then, happy baking.